I'll be honest with you. When I heard about today's guest, I was very intrigued. I thought it sounded magical, but I was also a bit skeptical. But the more we talked, the more I saw something that I see in myself as well as some of the women in my community here. You're doing the right things, you're eating clean, maybe you've gotten rid of a lot of toxins, and yet there's still this feeling that you haven't really reached the full level of health, joy, and emotional well being that you know is possible. Like there's another level that you just haven't figured out how to reach yet. And what if the thing that's keeping you from getting to that level, it's not something that you need to add, but something that your body is actually still trying to resolve? Unfinished stress, unprocessed experiences, things that have never fully closed. Today's guest, Dr. Adam Suzman, a 25-year homeopath, has created a completely unconventional approach with incredible remedies that are designed to actually help your system do just that. And the way it works, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through real life experiences, it's probably something that you've never heard before because I sure hadn't. But the results that his thousands of patients and him, as you'll hear in the podcast, are getting are quite remarkable. This conversation is definitely not mainstream, but it is so fascinating. Welcome, Dr. Sussman.
Good to be here.
As I said to you before we got on, I am so intrigued by what you are doing with your work. And I know that you're a homeopathic doctor. And would you describe the remedies that you're working with? Because they're very different than the little white pellets that I'm used to, correct?
Yeah, I spent 25 years treating people as a homeopathic doctor. So that was my grounding. But as a homeopath, you work a lot with the memory of substances and imprinting them onto water. It all starts off as a liquid form because basically you're distilling the essence of a frequency. So you're taking a creature or a plant or a mineral and you're isolating its essence and then you're dealing with the potencies. But what I've done is a little bit different. I've been experimenting with increasing the potency of the effect. When we think of homeopathy, we often think of dropping a stone in a pond and getting a ripple, but I've layered the frequency onto itself to make it thicker, like making a pearl, the way the oyster makes a pearl. But instead of a little pearl, I've actually made this kind of grapefruit, which is like the full field of the energy, so that when I throw the grapefruit into the water, it creates like a ripple as opposed to just a tiny ripple.
Wow. So can I ask you a question then? How did you go from the sort of traditional homeopathy to this version?
I went into business with a friend of mine, and he actually said to me as a dare, could I make something as strong as the real thing? What I did after that is I worked on not so much single remedies, but making conglomerations, or they're almost like energetic sculptures to me, like putting pieces in different places to create different specific effects in order to bring about an outcome, as opposed to, okay, just taking a remedy for a cough or a cold. What if we want to create a good mood? What does that look like?
I'm just curious about two different things. My understanding of traditional homeopathy is that the more diluted the remedy, the stronger. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. It relies on dilution and succussion. If I was to take a drop of orange juice and then put it in a glass, that becomes much more dilute. But what we do with the homeopathic process is what we call succuss. So we would take a bottle and we would succuss it. That would increase the frequency. So even though you're diluting it physically, you're amplifying it energetically. The more you do that, the higher up it goes, the further back in time it can go, the more it acts on the mental, the emotional spaces.
Let me just get some understanding. So you said the farther back in time it goes. Tell me more
Well,
about that.
okay, so everyone knows arnica, right?
Yes.
Arnica bruises. I was with a mechanic who decided to study homeopathy. Normally, I think mechanics are quite burly, and he was quite burly, but he's incredibly sensitive. So I gave him a single dose of arnica 50 m. Now, normally that's 50,000 dilution. That's a very high potency. From a single dose over the process of over about a month, he went back through each and every incident of where he dropped axles on his pelvis and he bashed his arm against the wall. And so the body held memory of these events in the past, and it went back through all these memories sequentially back through time to deal with them and flush them out. And he would get, oh, my shoulder's sore.
So
for a
you
day
would
or
feel the
day.
pains again.
You would feel the pains, yeah?
Wow.
So it actually allows you to get further back in time. Homeopathy is an incredibly beautiful system. What I was trying to do here was something slightly different. The problem with homeopathy, I don't want to say it's a problem, but it is a problem, is that it's so complex. And
Yes.
we have about 5,000 remedies. And each time someone sits in front of you, you basically have to reinvent the wheel because they could be any of these 5,000 remedies. And you got to figure out, okay, they dream of the Virgin Mary at 3 in the morning and they're hungry for chocolate at 3 in the afternoon. When you get it right, it's a miracle. It just lights up and it works so beautifully. But a lot of the time we don't get it quite right. The potency right, you don't get the right remedy. So we've got to zigzag our way to cure. But what I was looking at doing with my system here was to create something that people could use dealing with more kind of human condition type things, which would allow people to actually go back themselves and go on a journey with themselves to deal with everything from old memories to broken relationships to feelings of poverty to waking up in a bad mood to even specifics around stuff like ADD. I've done some work around the autistic spectrum. The idea was to give people a set of tools, maybe 20 tools, as opposed to like 5,000 tools, and fairly clear instructions on, like, if you put this with this will work on nourishing that aspect of the mind to give you a solid base, and then you can work on clearing certain things with other remedies. Was to some extent to simplify it. I wanted people to have that sense of they can actually take control of a lot of the situations that got them into the mess in the first place. My first remedy was a remedy called liberation. I call it a karmic medicine because it actually deals with all the stuff that's unfinished in the body. So it basically goes into the body, and through dreams and in real life, it'll play out scenarios to your subconscious or even to your conscious in daily life, whereby you gain resolution of certain things that are unfinished or are stuck in your body. So if you have a relationship and it ends badly and then you never see the person again, it's like this arrow is plunged in and it's broken off, and we're sitting with a broken arrow there, but half it's still in our body. And it's not even necessarily about what happened, but it's what didn't happen as well. What didn't happen was what would have happened if I'd stayed with that person, and the body never knows. But when you take this remedy, you dream of your ex-girlfriends or ex-boyfriends or whatever, and you'll have a resolution and you'll make peace with it. You actually feel it leaving your body as a sense of, okay, I know what it would have felt like now. I can put that to rest. A friend of mine in Dubai, and I gave this to her, and she said on one day, 3 of her ex-boyfriends phoned her on the same day, right? So obviously in her head, there was this like, what if I get back together with Johnny, Peter, and Paul? She hadn't resolved it. She was still on the fence, maybe. This is human nature. This is how we operate. But then she saw very clearly, oh, that's why they're an ex. And she was able to make peace with all 3 of them.
You had closure. Is this one remedy that works with everybody? Do you have to tweak it in any way? How does that work?
It works with everybody. This has been designed as a karmic medicine to finish the business of the past. And when I took this, I noticed it went through all my ex-girlfriends, it went through all my broken friendships, it went through all my family members, and then it got to the acquaintances. So over about 8 months, I had this feeling of I was just getting lighter and lighter because all the stuff that was unresolved, that was still sitting in our body, just somehow got resolved. I'd make peace, I'd give presents, or people would give me presents and drinks. Would phone me out of the blue. I'd go to the local shopping center and there would be that person. And my decision was like, okay, do I want to bring them closer? Do I want to say it's finished? Or do I want to create a new relationship with this person?
You were taking this every day, or how often were you taking
Every
it?
day. I took it every day for like about 9 months. By the end of it, I was just random people I'd met once or twice in my life. But the big players, I'll just give you a story. There was this one woman whose mother had died, but she never got to say goodbye to the mother. And she was always dreaming about the mother, and the mother would be in the clouds. So when she took the liberation, the mother was able in the dream to come down through the clouds, give her a big hug, and she was able to make peace with it. And then she felt she could let go because she was holding on to this incomplete memory, and this remedy facilitated this whole thing and allowed it to take place. There's another story which is equally interesting. No, it's crazy stuff. Everyone should take this. It's just such a no-brainer.
That's what I'm thinking.
I want to get this out to everyone. So this woman, she was in England and she lived in a small town. Her parents lived in the next small town, and they've been fighting for 10 years. They hadn't spoken to each other for 10 years. So she's on her way back to her small town through their small town, and her car breaks down, as it would happen 100 yards from their door. Of course, she's forced, because in the middle of the night, it's raining in England, right? She's forced to go to the door, but because she's taking this liberation, she opens the door, she bursts into tears. The father, he bursts into tears. They both hug each other. Their eyes are pouring. The mother's there, her eyes are pouring. And in an hour, that 10 years is washed away. It actually creates the circumstances psychologically whereby healing can occur by, in fact, manipulating reality.
Okay,
So
so I've got a question for you. So I'm imagining there's people in the audience here listening when this airs that are skeptical, thinking, is that just the placebo effect? Is it just that the person has made the decision because they are told that this remedy can have this incredible impact? Is that enough to shift the energy, or do you think that it's actually the remedy doing something?
yeah, it's definitely the remedy. When you look at the amount of energy that this guy, Nagarjuna, this Buddhist alchemist, went through in order to create this remedy, it takes a year to create one of these pills. I'd be able to take this frequency and clone it. So I don't know how it works. I would go down to this garden center and I would just be walking, and then someone would be there from my past, like, oh my God, this is ridiculous again. You know?
Wow.
Each day I would get a new person, whether people
That's
need
awesome.
it or not. It worked. Absolute efficacy. I'm happy to give people money back if they don't get anything from it, because everyone gets from this. It's just so powerful and it works so deeply. And what it showed me was that when we look at healing, to even begin to approach this truly, the good lifestyle, food, diet, all of that stuff. But what about the mental health? What about the stuff that's stuck somewhere in the body, in the mind, and is not allowing us to move forward? What about that stuff? It's like you're standing at the fence, you're waiting for something to come and it never comes, but this allows you to feel it. Carl Jung said that anything done in a dream is somatically identical to something that happens to us in reality. So if we have a resolution in a dream, the body feels like we've had the resolution, and functionally as if we have had the resolution.
So you've worked with large numbers of people with this.
Literally thousands. Yeah.
What about people that have some really significant mental health issues? You said autistic people too, correct?
Yeah. As a single parent, I look at these parents of autistic kids, and then the peas on the plate aren't lined up in the right way, and the kid melts down and freaks out just because everything has to be a particular way. Any deviation from the norm is perceived as trauma, and they'll melt down. I thought I'd take a crack at that. I actually did 3 trials on 3 medicines: Cloud9, Victory Over Thought, and Presence. They deal with different aspects. What was interesting with autism was, if you imagine, it's not one disease, it's a whole range of presentations. Some of them have too much sensory overload, some of them don't get enough sensory information, some of them are pre-verbal. The Asperger's people are fully functional, emotionally cut off from the world. So I thought I'd take a crack at it from a completely different angle. Instead of looking at it as a disease to be treated, I thought if I could bring certain things to the fore, like more consciousness, and I could calm the emotional. So instead of spiking to an 8 or a 9, they could just spike to a 4 where it was manageable. This is where I focus the treatment. There's certain remedies in there which kind of allow you to watch your thoughts arise, but arise apart from you. Normally, the thought arises, we're in it and we're off to the races, and that's that. But what if we could get the thought, we could see it arising, but we had that moment, that gap, to decide, I don't want to act like that. I know what happened. I go down this road and it's always bad. It's always messy. So it gave them a chance to choose not to do that, because the emotional regulation, obviously calming them down so they could say, okay, this is not the end of the world. The peas are misaligned on the plate. A good example, this one guy, he's one of these PDA guys, persistent demand aversion is part of autism, but they get very cranky if things are not perfect. So the mother brought him a hamburger in the box and he brought it home, and like, she opened the box and it was a bunless burger. So the top bun wasn't there, right? And so normally the autistic mind, they've pictured the burger in their head and it's got to appear like that. They would normally melt out. And the mother went in, she's going to freak out. And then he was able to look at it, and he loves cars. So he said, oh, it's a convertible. He was able to make the conscious shift to like another step and then move into a more mature, more playful space, because he wasn't as emotionally as triggered, and he was able to watch the thought arising with some emotional regulation. A very different way of treating things, bringing certain aspects to the fore. It was very beautiful. We did 3 trials. I did quite a lot of work on autism because I thought we got 40-50% improvement in a lot of the benchmarks in autism, the meltdowns, the overreaction, whenever they come into a room, they find it very difficult because they don't get a lot of the social cues and they're not able to read them. We would go to a room and the person's frowning. We know, like, okay, maybe I've done something wrong. But they either wouldn't get that or they wouldn't get the social cue at all. For me, what constitutes a healthy person? This is a big question. I know what it's not. Let me give you an
Right.
example. I made this remedy called creation, and my brief to myself was, let me create a remedy which has the brief of best day ever. So what does best day ever look like? Okay. What emotional state do I need to be in to have my best day ever? So it was like, I want to be open. I want to be expansive. I want to be quite playful. I want to be engaged, and I want to be enjoying myself. So I've got different aspects of the progea flower and bee pollen and jelly. It's got the light of Jupiter, which gives us expansive space. I've got the light of Jupiter from some Russians that point a telescope at Jupiter for the night, and instead of the eyepiece, they put a bowl of water. So the light went into the telescope, down into the water for the full night as it tracked
Oh
the.
my goodness. So that's like Dr. Emoto's work with water, right?
It is, yeah, yeah. But the light of Jupiter is an actual homeopathic remedy. But it came to my attention because it has this sense of abundance. They said that when they took it, they were like, oh, call the musicians, bring the vodka, bring some food. With a celebratory
Oh my
sense of,
God.
and I noticed when I was taking this light of Jupiter, I went to a friend's house and she gave me some food and she said, would you like some more? Normally I'd be polite. I would say no. I was like, yeah, sure. Bring more food. It was quite atypical. When I was in supermarkets dealing with like the cashiers, normally I wouldn't really engage with these guys, but I was feeling so good and so outward. I would just engage with them. I would start chatting with them and it made me a better person.
Everyone needs this, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic remedy creation. There's another component to this as well. They say it takes 21 days to build a habit. So a bottle normally lasts you 21 days to a month. If you take it every day, the body almost learns this new way of relating to the world, and then it almost becomes automatic. And
Then you don't have to
that's
take it
feel
after
right.
that.
You might take it every now and then just to remind yourself of the
Yeah.
space because you might drift out of it. But if you get so used to everything going your way and having a good day and feeling optimistic and going out into the world, and we spend so much time on our body, on our appearance, on our skin, but so little time on what's your mind going to be like when you go out into the day. And that's everything. You could be wearing an old jacket and whatever, doesn't matter. If you're feeling great, who cares? You're feeling fantastic. The world reacts to you as
That's
if you're
right.
feeling fantastic because everyone's just reacting to your light, basically. I've used various mantras as well to bring in some of the aspects of creation or preservation.
You
or,
use the mantras when you're creating the remedies or while you're taking them.
as an ingredient. So
As an ingredient.
yeah, I've got a friend of mine. She's American, actually. He spent like 20 years in India at an ashram learning Sanskrit and all the mantras. So whenever I need a mantra, I'll say to him, Stephen, please just give me this mantra. And he'll meditate for a week on it. He'll wake up at 4 in the morning. He'll chant it into the water and then bring it to me and
my
amplify it.
word.
So it's like a very clean transmission of this mantra.
Sounds incredible, like magical.
It is magical. What I wanted to do was bring this magic to the people as a set of possibilities of how life can be. We get this story, this narrative, this is the way you can be. Some healthy programming around abundance, around creativity, around playfulness, around what life is actually about.
And these are available to people anywhere in the world, like the US and
The
beyond.
US, yes, we have Immortal Wellness in the States. As I said, I'm in South Africa, but best to go to the States because we ship out from there everywhere. The idea of just taking control of a lot of your patterns so that you're not a victim of anything. Even, for example, coming to the jellyfish.
So I was going to ask you
Yes.
about that next.
When I was making these different versions of the jellyfish, I mixed it with different mantras. I mixed it with the Lakshmi mantra. And Lakshmi, she's
Oh.
the goddess of abundance
Yeah.
and richness and wealth. So it's a real big band production of, oh, wow, Queen Lakshmi's arrived. And so people get the sense of, oh, abundance is mine. I can just attract it as you go out with that moon, you draw it to you without too much effort. I've looked at the wealth abundance thing, and it's quite complicated because we get a lot of stuff from our parents and what it takes to make money or what it is to be abundant. With my daughter, I'm quite particular about giving away whatever she needs, whatever she wants. Like not spoiling her, but like also just showing her, of course, money is not a problem. We'll just make
Right.
more. And here we
Right.
go. You have it.
That's a
And
beautiful lesson.
it's very important. I look at friends and some of them are like, oh, we don't have enough money to do this. And I can see the child constricting. Actually, it's a terrible thing to do to a child because then they'll have a constricted view on reality and money.
Absolutely.
Whereas my daughter will just go out and get whatever she needs because she's used to it arriving. So she'll be, oh, I can't get like this, I'll get like this.
So
But
let me
with-
ask you a quick question. If somebody wanted to work on abundance issues and they wanted some of the other like the liberation stuff, can you do two at once or should you do one at a time?
You could do two at once. It's like working on very different channels. One's
Ah.
like an installation channel. And sometimes the poverty stuff might be as a result of certain patterns in the past. I've got another remedy, which is like the sister of liberation. It's called closure. They're both very powerful. But what it does, it takes you back through situations that you've been in the past, and then it takes you into the emotion of the bad situation, but then takes you into a positive. Let me just give you an example because it's quite hard to understand this.
Yeah.
I made this quite recently, the closure. So I took it, it was like the second dose. So in a dream, I'm back at school, right? And I went to an all boys Methodist school, conservative and aggressive. It's terrible. Anyway, in the dream, I'm late. I'm like a year late and I've missed assemblies. And I look down instead of my school uniform, which is gray and white, I'm wearing brown pants and a pink shirt. And I'm going to get into all sorts of trouble from all the boys and the teachers. I feel in my body is dread. I've got to find my teacher. He said, I'll go upstairs to this classroom. So I go upstairs expecting to get crap from everyone. And I get upstairs and instead of this terrible set of classrooms, it's this beautiful garden against the mountain. And there's a wedding going on and children playing. So I walked in with dread and then I walked out with freedom. And this is how this remedy works. It takes you back to the emotion, but then takes you out a different pathway and you have a different experience. It's really incredible.
So I'm hearing you saying some of the ways that you've resolved things were through dreams, and then sometimes it was in real waking life.
Yeah,
So
totally.
for folks that don't remember their dreams, does that matter?
I think it will resolve to some extent in dreams.
Whether you're conscious of them or not.
It's nice to be conscious of it because then your body can have the feeling of all the anxiety around that or the tax man or whatever. You go into it, you have a positive experience, and as a result, you almost wipe away the stain of tension in your body that's sitting there. I'll tell you another story with this closure because it's fascinating stuff. I had this friend and we were very close, shared a lot of amazing stuff together, and then he betrayed me quite badly. So there was a lot of love-hate together and the whole thing. In the dream, we're friends again. I have to wake up and it's like, okay, we're friends, so I can't hate him so much, but I've still got all these bad memories. So all these memories flush up and I bury them in the ground. And all the positive ones I take back. Okay. And then the next night I have this dream and I'm looking for him and I see his face on this manhole, but it's been concreted over. So I thought, okay, to be sure, hammer through the manhole. I go down this ladder into this like underground tunnel to go back to the memories to see what's left. And instead of a road being there, it's just rubble. The whole road it's almost like it's after an earthquake. It's been blown up and there is no way for me to actually even go back there, even if I wanted to scratch the itch or the wound, to go back there and dwell on it for whatever reason. The pathway back there is gone. And then I could just, okay, it's actually finished. I don't have to keep dreaming about this individual. We had people who would run into their ex-boyfriend and normally they go into all sorts of tension because they've been quite intense and they felt nothing. It was like they're meeting a normal person. It actually is able to clear a lot of the trauma from the body. So if you take the liberation, which is more about the people, and the closure, which is a lot to do with the emotions around situations and repatterning these in a good way, you can do a lot to clearing this. And as I said, so much of health has been focused on diet, pills, medications, health supplements, exercise, and that's all a part of it. But until you sort this out, forget it.
Exactly.
Actually,
a couple of different things I'm thinking about. One, do you have remedies that help people that have serious sleep problems, that have gotten into a bad pattern since they were young and maybe it's insomnia or they have sleep apnea? Do you have anything that works on that level?
as it turns out, I have a product called sleep. Yeah.
What do you know?
No, it's quite a beautiful story. It's herb. It's called Osha, bear root. It's an American herb. The story is the bears use this root to trigger hibernation. So the idea is like they'll eat this root to slow their metabolism down so that they can go hibernation, so they can get all the way through winter and then survive. And if they don't have this, then they can't slow down enough. They'll burn more of their body resources too quickly. So the male bears will actually give it as like gifts to the females to try woo them with this root. That's the basis of it. It's got a couple other bits and pieces. What I've tried to do with that remedy is just to say you're safe, you're relaxed, you're going into a state of deep relaxation, and there's no side effects. There's no grogginess. It doesn't affect dreams. It just allows the nervous system to go from like the cat scratching on the wall to like the cat sleeping on the floor. It just allows you to down regulate, to ashwagandha in there as well, and blue lotus, both of which are very good for regulating the nervous system. It's been very popular, the sleep one, and it might not work on the first day, but you do it for a couple of days, and once again you set up a pattern, because what we're doing is basically we're seeding frequencies into the field of the body. We're re-educating the body in the right way to live, the right way to interact. I've been quite cynical about this in terms of when you break down happiness. What does it look like? And I've said, what does happiness look like? Can we reverse engineer this, or put certain herbs and plants and minerals and bits and pieces together into a remedy to give to someone so they can almost like relearn it or re-remember it? I think we all know this. Life happens and trauma. I see this very clearly with patterning. Like you spill your coffee on yourself in the morning and then some guy cuts you off in traffic and then you're angry.
And you keep attracting more negative experiences in that time. Yes.
So this is like the reverse. Let's see the positive experience and let that seed further positive experiences. So if you're in such a good mood, and this is the thing with closure, even if someone cuts you off, it's, whatever, I'm feeling great, look at the clouds. By doing that, we set up new patterns of behavior. And by doing that, we change our lives. So a lot of the self-help stuff is around think and get rich and has some effect, but because it doesn't address the emotional or the somatic, the body experience of that. That's why in creation there's the royal jelly. So when we make it, we feel quite regal. The royal jelly is designed to turn worker bees into queen bees. So it's got the sense of level up, turn into a higher version of yourself. And when we're able to consume this, we almost embody this in ourselves.
I've got another question for you. I read in your profile, you were talking about trauma and how to release trauma from the body and mind and energetic levels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so there's obviously the liberation and the closure that I've mentioned. So it'll help to work with that. But then there's a remedy I've got called Cloud9, which is oxytocin based. I've found a homeopathic oxytocin and I've added to the blue pea and one or two other bits and pieces. It was designed as part of this full spectrum protocol for autism to give people a safe space at any time in the day to be able to step out of the narrative. Oxytocin is when you're loved or you're held. So that sense of I'm held, I'm loved, I'm okay. The body's incredibly complex, but it's quite simple. If it feels safe, everything's going to be okay. If it doesn't feel safe, nothing's going to be okay. You can tell it whatever you want. Everyone knows the experience of a screaming child and you can tell. But I remember once I used this blue lotus for my daughter where she was screaming and couldn't even get near her. Her nervous system was all white. I just squirted some blue lotus onto her lip and just wiped it away. But obviously a bit got in. And 3-4 minutes later, she was like, I don't know. It was quite amazing. If we're able to head off a lot of these traumatic events, we don't go into as much trauma and then we can begin to go back into the memory and start to unpick a lot of these traumas. Like I have remedies made from the immortality Tara. They say Tara was the mother of all the Buddhists. So she's like this great mother who holds everyone. I'm holding people through processes and I'm doing a lot of stuff and I'm just giving these remedies. I'm saying this is what they do. And I'm standing behind them completely. But when I take Tara's, someone could hold me. I could just flop into Tara's arms and just lie there and be held. That's all I often need. Just a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes. I don't have to hold anything. I can put everything down and then I'll pick it up again, refresh. Trauma, we could go on for 5 hours here. But once again, if we look at a safe nervous system, the blue lotus, the Cloud9, the Tara, and then the liberation, closure, those ones, and then obviously sleep. If we're sleeping, we can process stuff.
How would you do a protocol? Because I'm just thinking about myself. I have some early trauma that makes me bone deep afraid of Western medicine because of these experiences that I've had. And if I have to go for a blood test just to find out what my levels are, I get so stressed that I'm about to pass out.
Yes.
What would you do?
I would take closure, to be honest, because closure can be a bit confrontational, but you're happy to go once round the track if you know that you can free yourself from it forever. So what I'll probably do is you'll take it and then your psyche will engineer some scenario whereby you have to go to a Western medical institution and you have a really good time. And you'll be completely supported and it'll be like such a great time. And in that, you'll begin to erase this pattern because getting back in the water after we've been bitten by a shark is the only way to get rid of that fear of the shark. What closure would do, it would put you in a swimming pool with some cute little pajama sharks and they'd be brushing against you and you may have a drink and you're lying on it. You're having a good time. It's a non-traumatic way to revisit the memory and have a different emotional, neurological response in order to create a new pathway by bringing it to our awareness. It's very powerful because you go through it physically in a dream or in reality, and you're presented with the stuff, but you realize that it's really got your back. One of the remedies, one of the plants is the Solomon seal, and its function is to close off stuff behind you and seal it at the highest expression of yourself. So it's actually pushing you to the highest expression of you, but then open up the door to the past, then find your way out of it into a positive outcome, and then you can leave it at the door.
I've never done psychedelics, but I've heard people doing microdosing of psychedelics. Is it similar to that experience? Do you know?
I think
The outcome.
in terms of resolution, I think the pathways are quite different
Right.
because physically taking these remedies, one doesn't feel a lot physically.
So it's not like you feel in another,
Or you're taking
like-
mushroom, tripping out, or
Right.
anything like
Right.
that. It's not like
which would
that.
scare
But
me.
the nice thing about this is for people who want to do the transformational work and get the benefit of those kind of things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the plant medicine work is quite beautiful. Some of it might get a bit crazy, but there are a lot of people who won't engage with that. What I've tried to do here is to get to the same point without any of the side effects or any
Yes.
computational stuff or the illegality or all of that. I do believe will go toe to toe with any substance. It's even stronger than some of these things because in some sense, it's really saying to you like, okay, look, there is this fear in you. Let's go there, but let's hold your hand through it and we'll play out a positive thing, like your Western medicine thing of going to the hospital. I've also got a bit of an anti-Western medicine thing going, so I can relate to that. And my daughter goes there, and every time I go, I know that from taking closure, if something happens, it'll be a great experience. I'll find a nice nurse or a nice doctor, and it won't be traumatic. And I'll realize through that, the nervous system will just de-escalate. But the only way through that, I mean, you can talk therapy yourself, and it goes nowhere, but you actually have to go through the situation and have a positive outcome.
Interesting. In my experience, I've had some positive experiences too, mixed with the negatives. It would be interesting to see how taking closure would help maybe redirect my attention to the positive times as opposed to the negative.
Or just have a very positive outcome, and then your body realizing like, okay, maybe now I've entered a new realm. You know, what this feels like with closure is once you do it once or twice, you don't really have to do it again.
So you're not taking it for months on end, for example.
I loved it so much. I took it for months on end just to be sure. Is there anything left? Just to be comprehensive, because you never know. I know that if I've cleared that, then that's not something that's going to trigger me, or I'm not going to generate a situation whereby, like in your case, you have to go to hospital and have this traumatic thing.
Right.
This might actually bring on something, but something minor. Maybe you stub your toe and you got to go wrapped up or something, and it's like a very pleasant experience. And I don't think it's ever a very nice experience for anyone. But
you know what's interesting? My former mother-in-law, she took care of her sister with MS, and she had a pretty tough life. She had some issues from her youth with her father and things that she was carrying. She was the only person that I knew that actually looked at going to the hospital as a vacation because somebody else would be taking care of her instead of her taking care of everybody else.
so,
I
I mean, wow.
I cannot imagine. But for her, it was like, oh yeah, let me just be completely taken care of.
The importance of these remedies is everyone's trauma is unique. We almost have to have these living plant matrices where the plant can actually go in and work with our consciousness. We're not take this medical substance or this chemical and it does this. No, we're introducing this plant. I work a lot with gold. I've got a liquid version of gold. I've got a burnt version of gold. And when we mix 3 different versions of gold, it's able to carry it much deeper into the cells. This is part of my work as well. To almost like whisper to the DNA to allow these processes to take place on a very deep level as opposed to just on a surface cellular level.
That's incredible. How many remedies have you made?
I keep swearing I'm going to do my last one, but then something new comes up. So I think I've been about 22, maybe 25.
Wow. How does this information come to you? Are you channeling something, or how do you describe that?
I become aware of a problem when I choose to focus on something, and then it almost like percolates through my mind, and then the ingredients will come to me. People bring it to me, or I'll run into them on the mountain when I'm climbing, or I'll just look at an outcome like this creation. What is the outcome I want? And I'll break it down. And then I'll look at the plant and the mineral realm and say, what covers this? And I'll tweak them and I'll play with them. And then I'll test them on myself. Then I'll test them on other people. And then I'll release them. It's an ongoing osmotic process of receiving information or perceiving a need. Like out of this closure, I've come to new remedies, a universal panacea to deal with a lot of the residues in the body. And then this new one called regenesis, which is, it's almost like an attempt to reconnect us to our original source code in a sense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like our original divine imprint. When people take it, they feel very centered, they feel very calm, and it allows them to almost return to themselves. A lot of people have forgotten why they're here.
Or never knew to begin with.
That's even scarier. I'd like to think that when people were children, they had some idea of why, or they would feel drawn to certain things. Like I was always drawn to herbs. My mother had a herb garden. I was really into the herbs. And I went and I studied herbal medicine and homeopathy. But I didn't at that point realize the those mystical aspects of these plants, that these little plants are able to do the stuff with closure. It's the plants that are doing that. It's 3 different plants mixed together. The fact that these plants are bringing us these amazing gifts. And when we amplify the frequency and we buffer them with the right things, we can actually send a very coordinated and complex message to the cells to have an outcome that we want. Part of this is just not being at the mercy of whatever, the government, or not being at the mercy of your emotions. Like I remember anger was my thing. I made this one remedy and I was taking this remedy and I woke up and I was raging and I was like, oh, there I was, my father. Wow, I'm the angry man. I don't want to be the angry man. But being able to see myself as the angry man, because I was just raging in the middle of the night, 3 a.m, I just woke up angry. But being able to see it is, okay, I see that. I take it on my father's angry because things were going his way. And literally, you just have to put that mask down and take control of it. And when anger arises, because the guy cuts you off, you hoot. But then you drop it. Then you move on. That's the correct usage.
I love what you're describing about that awareness that you're having when you see something come up, and then you can choose how to respond to it instead of just getting completely sucked into that anger. You took a step back and you could see it for what it was. I think the way you described it as a mask is quite good, because I don't think a lot of us are aware that we have the ability to take a step back from whatever we're reacting to and figure out how to respond instead of react.
Once we see it as an option as opposed to necessity, so I can get angry now. And I've had times now when something happens, someone's parking in my driveway or something, and all the anger circuits are ready to go. And I was like, but I'm having such a great day. So I'll just park next to it, like whatever, the guy will move, I'll write him a note on his car. But I'm not going to allow that event to spoil my day. But it's always testing me. Here's the situation. Here's the chance for you to get angry and get caught up in this and be carried away with it.
Right.
Or you're just like, I choose not. I'm going to put it down. I don't want to spoil my day by getting angry with him.
That's so beautiful. All right. Talk to us about the jellyfish.
The jellyfish. Okay. The immortal jellyfish, it's about this big. It's about the size of your pinky nail.
Wow.
Right?
Tiny.
It's tiny. This thing, Turritopsis dawni, it floats in the seas. And basically, when it gets injured or gets old, it sends this message of renewal, regeneration to its cells to begin this process of regrowth. So what it does, it'll get injured, it'll get nicked against some coral or whatever. It'll actually drop down to the bottom of the ocean. It'll stick to like a rock, and then it'll turn on its cells into jelly, basically undifferentiated stem cells. And then it'll rebloom like the flower dissolves into mush and then turns into a flower again. What? When I came across this thing, wow, what a crazy mechanism. Now, I'm also aware that we're slightly more complicated. We've got cars and houses and children and bones. You can't just mush it all and then presto, instant human. It doesn't work like that. But what I did work on is capturing this message that the jellyfish sends to begin this process of renewal, of regeneration. I was able to isolate it as a protein and then as a frequency. So there's 2 versions. The vibrational one, I've mixed those with different mantras, because if you keep taking this, the body eventually acclimatizes to it. So when you take it, what happens is you feel more energy, more life force, your nails grow faster, your hair grows faster, the skin regenerates faster. It basically says to whatever system is going, return to an earlier, healthier version of yourself. But the reason I've got so many different versions of it is that after about 2-3 months of taking it, the body learns that frequency. So I've had to play with the frequency to amplify it. If you're smelling sandalwood all the time, after a while your mind just blanks it out. So this is the same. You get used to it, the body adapts to it, then we don't get an effect. So I've had to amplify it further and then mix it with different mantras to allow it to continue to work. Topical versions, the immortals, so people can add to face creams, and it works in regenerating cells and cells that are starting to go a bit weird or potentially towards cancerous things. It begins to turn into a healthier version, because younger cells are healthier cells. As the cells get older, they start to have abnormalities. But if we can keep reminding the body to stay as young as possible.
So you're really 100, right? You've just been using these remedies.
I was born in 1846, yeah. But what I kept to realize from working with this immortal jellyfish was everyone's looking for this one pill, which is going to do everything. And a lot of the marketing in the world is around this, oh, take this new blah, 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 it's going to blah, blah, blah.
Ask your doctor if XYZ is right for you.
Or Facebook bombarding all this information. But what I kept to realize was that there are many facets to aging. Some of them are like people saying, oh, you're old, not so young anymore. These little memes that people are trying to feed you to get you to buy into this aging and death story. And I'm like, no, please keep that away from me. I don't want to hear that. I'm only going to see myself with positive and surround myself with younger people. And I'll take the jellyfish, and then I'll do the mental and emotional clearing, the liberation and the closure. If we look at it like that, we can literally stop places where aging would occur. Obviously, good diet, exercise, absolutely.
Removing toxins from your lifestyle.
Totally. Yeah, that by itself is not enough. And this is where this Universal Panacea I've got is very useful. It's a new one. It's coming out. It'll be in the States in about a week. I got these alchemical remedies from a friend of mine in Austria, and their view on disease, the alchemists, to go back to Paracelsus, is that disease is the result of residue buildups in the veins with arteriosclerosis, kidney stones, liver stones, buildup of residues, gout, too many uric acid crystals. So that begins to clear out a lot of the rust that builds up over time. This regenesis, the closure, and the Universal Panacea are designed as like a trinity to really clear out a lot of
all the old stuff that's not needed
and reconnect us to our original source. So it's very new. It's literally just come out here, and it'll be in the States in a week, 10 days. Everyone would level up, like one level of energy. And I remember walking up this hill. It was quite a steep incline. And I remember going up and like feeling absolutely no tiredness at all. There was no drag. There was no aches and pains. Wow, this is what it feels like to be young.
I'm curious, does any of this work on pets?
Yes, I've got immortal pet.
Really?
It's amazing. I had this one woman, the pet couldn't even get onto the couch. She was so old. And he would bounce onto the couch after taking the immortal pet.
Oh my gosh.
Into this more vibrant version of themselves. Obviously, there are disease processes we have to deal with. It's not necessarily going to sort out all of those things. In Chinese medicine, they talk about Jing, which is like life force. And when we're younger, we have more life force, so we can eat worse food and we don't have to exercise. We can get away with it. We get older, after 30, it starts to go down. We can't get away with as much. But this tends to return us to a more full version of the Jing, which means that we have more energy to accomplish things, initiate projects, as well as get up and go and let's just do it because I feel like I've got the energy. So it's quite a complex dance, this dance with aging and death. It requires quite a complex solution that addresses mind, body, and spirit. In a sense, the jellyfish will address the physical component, the youthfulness. The closure, the liberation will address the mental and emotional stuff. And then the Universal Panacea and the regenesis will actually address our connection back to who we were and the clearing of a lot of the residue from the body. What amazed me taking liberation was how much stuff I had. I've always thought I was quite diligent in terms of processing and clearing. Yeah. The image I had was like, if you walk into a house, it would be like each room was stacked up to the ceiling with old ex-girlfriends and broken friendships. And it was just rubble, just littered everywhere through the house. The image I had was just throwing bags of concrete over the side of the ship. And I could actually see the ship like lifting up in the water. And I could see where I was going. And I got a little engine. I could buzz around the sea. It changed my perception of myself.
This is amazing. I'm incredibly impressed, inspired. Curious to try some of these. Remind us again of the website.
It's immortalwellness.net. Yeah.
.net. Okay, I'll have that in the show notes.
Yeah. And we ship out of New Mexico.
Do you have a newsletter or anything that people can access more information?
Go to the site and join up to the newsletter, and then they'll get messages and
Yeah.
specials. I think the main message, if I had one to give to people, clear on what it is you want initially and then ongoing. After these remedies, one thing has come to the next. So, okay, memories, but what about patterning? Let's work on the pattern. But now part of the disease process is that we're getting old. And then I came across jellyfish. I did the jellyfish just by itself for 2 years in different formats. It was during COVID. I had to have it flown in from Japan just to get it. And then I returned the jellyfish to the ocean because you just need to make it.
And it can survive, of course, because it's regenerating itself. Oh, good. That makes me feel so much better. Jellyfish are harmed in the process.
Then after that, when I made the protein, I just built it out of brown rice proteins. So it was just a structure because it's just a message that you're sending to the cells to return to an earlier version of themselves. The jellyfish's DNA is amazing. It can turn on genes, which means that it liquefies the cells and then turns that off, and then it turns on separate genes for like massive regeneration. You know, what happens a lot is sometimes you'll get incredibly thirsty. So you'll drink a whole half a gallon of orange juice out of the fridge like you're a kid because the body needs nutrients, or you'll get very hungry, you won't put on weight, but you're just rebuilding structures in the body, or you get very tired, so you'll sleep for a while. Sometimes you're like wide awake, you can hardly sleep, you got so much energy. Middle of winter here, and I was walking around in a t-shirt because my body was functioning so well, that the blood was flowing so well. I've got a one for the tooth as well. Miracle Tooth is amazing for any dental problems and bacterial overgrowth. I've covered a lot of areas. That's one of the biggest sellers here.
Miracle Tooth?
Miracle Tooth, yeah, I sell a lot of that because, you know, what it does is it improves the health of the gums. It improves the blood supply to the nerves. And I've found at certain concentrations, it's able to stop the bacteria from turning sugars into plaque. So if you think of the bacteria as the gangsters and the sugar as the guns, I'm like tying the gangsters to the wall so they can't get to the guns to go and raid. It's stopping the process of plaque formation, which then turns into tartar and calculi. That's what causes a lot of the bad stuff. So if we can stop that.
Can it reverse any that's already there?
The reason I made this Miracle Tooth was I went to a dentist and he was like, oh, you need a root canal, the normal doom and gloom. And then he went on in typical dentist fashion while their hands in your mouth to explain like what was going on.
Ask you questions at the same time.
And then he said to me, oh, what's happening here? You had some work done on the tooth and there's not enough blood getting to the nerve because the microtubules are so tiny to supply the nerve that the nerve's starting to die. So hang on, this molecule, this teratopsin I created, this jellyfish, is all about improved blood supply. Then just experimented with different concentration. And I was at the point where you're holding onto the table, it was pretty sore with the pain. And then I just sprayed and I never had to have the root canal.
Wow. So the Miracle Tooth is a spray.
It's a spray, yeah. So you spray it, you shoot it around your mouth for 2-3 minutes, and then you spit it out. You'll notice it. You'll feel your teeth. It's, oh, wow, they feel super smooth, like after cleaning, because a lot of the bacteria never turns into plaque. So your experience of plaque is vastly reduced. Plaque mixes with the minerals that turn into these calculi, and then that's what causes a lot of the breakdowns.
I'm thinking actually about my dog who's 11, and she's a small breed, and she has some plaque, and I've been feeding her homemade diet with supplements and all this stuff, but I've been trying all these different things for the plaque because I don't want to put her under to have her teeth done in that very expensive, dangerous process, unless I absolutely have to. But could I do that for her? If she didn't spit it out, would that be all right?
No, it's fine. You can swallow it as well. What I do is I often spray it on the cat's or the dog's food. With the dogs, often you can lift the lip up and just spray, and then they'll just switch it around their mouth anyway in the process. Mix it with their water. I've got a friend who's got an old dog, a small dog as well. And she had this thing about having to have it taken to the vet under anesthetic to clean the plaque off. And she just used this, and now she never goes to the vet anymore for that.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm definitely going to be ordering that.
You know why? It's less trauma for the animal.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. This has been so fascinating, Adam. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you wish that I had?
I think we've covered a lot. I've tried to, as I said, develop a new system where there's something for everyone, or you can use a combination of different things to get to an outcome. But a lot of it's about nourishing, amplifying, just re-educating the body in I don't know if they're correct behavior, but like healthy, normal,
Yeah.
normative behavior, so that we're not in this kind of fraud brace position around reality. Like with you with the going to the Western medicine, it's like, it's just a pattern.
Yeah. I love your story about the autistic boy, I believe it was, with the hamburger and how he shifted to see it as a convertible instead. I just think that's an example of reframing and just, yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I'll probably have you back another time.
Anytime. Happy to chat more. Yeah.